I paid $6,800 for her baby shower with everything: venue, food, and all the extras. My cousin looked around and said, "Feels cheap." I raised my glass. "So do you?" I canceled the car I was buying her as a gift. Then I pulled out the receipts and did this. "You spent all that for this?" My cousin Rachel said, standing in the middle of the hall, wrinkling her nose like she smelled something rotten. She turned slowly, taking in the fairy lights I strung up myself, the rented flower walls, the trays of catered food, the custom cake shaped like a teddy bear holding a bottle. "Feels cheap," she said loudly enough that people near the buffet turned to look. Laughter rippled across the room, not the good kind. The kind that sticks to your skin like sweat. I raised my champagne glass and smiled right at her. "So do you?" The room went still. Rachel's eyes widened like she hadn't expected me to say anything, like I was supposed to swallow it like always. I didn't. Instead, I stepped back, reached into my bag, and pulled out the thick manila envelope I'd brought. Not because I expected trouble, but because somewhere deep down, I knew. Receipts. Itemized, stapled, color-coded. Venue deposit, $3,500. Catering, $2,200. Decorations, gifts, favors, last-minute flower orders, $1,100. I laid the envelope on the dessert table, right next to the cake she'd already taken selfies with. And then I said it, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I was going to surprise you with a car today. A real gift. Title in your name. Insurance paid for 6 months. It's canceled now. You're welcome." Someone gasped. Rachel's hand flew to her chest like she'd been shot. Behind her, her mother, my aunt, looked like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow them both. My own mom just stood there, hands wringing, mouth opening and closing, but saying nothing, as usual. That was the thing about my family. They wanted generosity, but they expected obedience. Smile. Hey, be grateful for the crumbs. Not today. Today was the day everything changed. It was never about the baby shower. It was about what came next. Rachel didn't just get mad. She went nuclear. By the time I got home that night, she had already blasted me on Facebook, Instagram, and some private family group chats I didn't even know I was still in. Screenshots flew across the internet. Blurry photos of the event, captioned, "Some people spend money just to humiliate others." My inbox started filling up with messages from cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Some of them were laughing. Some were pretending they were concerned. But most, they were siding with her. Rachel posted a long, teary rant about how I ruined her first baby shower. How I embarrassed a pregnant woman. How I weaponized money because I couldn't stand not being the center of attention. And my mother? She didn't defend me. She didn't even text me privately. Instead, she commented under Rachel's post, "Family means forgiveness. Let's heal, not hurt." Heal. Forgiveness? After I dropped almost $7,000 trying to give Rachel a perfect day? And it didn't stop there. 2 days later, my aunt, Rachel's mom, called me at work. At work. She didn't even say hello. "You have to apologize," she hissed. "Rachel's blood pressure is through the roof. She had to go to the hospital because of the stress you caused." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetically predictable. "You mean the hospital she checked into after she posted 15 Instagram stories complaining about the dessert table colors?" I asked. Silence. Then the threat started. "If you don't make this right," my aunt said, "people are going to find out what kind of person you really are." Click. I hung up. That night, I started noticing weird things. My Venmo history leaked. Screenshots of old text arguments from years ago, cropped and twisted, posted by Rachel's friends. One of my exes even messaged me. "Why is Rachel saying you stole money from your last girlfriend?" I realized then, they weren't just trying to humiliate me. They tried to push me aside. And it almost worked. Because even people who should have known better, old friends, distant cousins, started acting weird. Pulling away. Whispering. But they didn't know what I knew. They didn't know that 6 months ago, while planning the shower, Rachel had begged me for help. Not just with the baby shower, but with her credit card debt. They didn't know I had the screenshots, the receipts, the voice messages where she whined about being too tired to work, about how her boyfriend wasn't stepping up, about how I was the only reliable one. I still had the files, backed up on my laptop, external hard drive, cloud storage, everything. And more than that, I had something they didn't expect. Proof Rachel's whole, poor struggling pregnant girl act was a lie. Because 2 weeks before the baby shower, Rachel and her boyfriend had gone on a baby moon to Cabo. 5-star hotel. Massages, private boat tour, helicopter ride over the coast. All charged to the very credit card she sobbed about when asking me for help. I even had the photos, because Rachel, being Rachel, posted them on a private Instagram she forgot I had access to. So while they were trying to drown me in shame, I was gathering my arsenal. Screenshots of payment requests. Audio files of her begging for cash. Photos of her luxury vacation while pleading poverty. Texts where she called the baby shower my job because I owed her for being the rich cousin. They thought they were playing chess. I was dismantling the lies. And I wasn't done yet. The day everything exploded, her baby shower was just the prelude. Rachel decided to throw a small family dinner 2 weeks later. Healing night, according to the group chat. Everyone was invited. Everyone but me. Or so she thought. Because what Rachel didn't know was that her boyfriend, Mike, had reached out to me after the fallout. Turns out, Rachel had also been lying to him for months, about money, about family, about almost everything. Mike was angry, and he was ready to help. So while Rachel was setting the table and posting filtered family-first photos, I was working behind the scenes, printing out screenshots, downloading voice messages, organizing receipts into neat little folders. Mike and I made a plan. We weren't going to cause a scene. We were going to expose the truth completely. The night of the dinner, Mike texted me. Now, I walked into Rachel's house just as she was giving some sugary speech about love and forgiveness. The second she saw me, her face twisted into something ugly. You weren't invited, she spat. I smiled calmly, holding up a small black flash drive. Oh, don't worry, I said. I'm not here to eat. I'm here to return something you lost. People froze. My aunt stopped chewing. My uncle looked confused. My mom, still pretending to sip wine, put down her glass slowly. I plugged the flash drive into the TV in the living room. One click. The screen lit up. Text from Rachel asking me for money while lying about being too broke to afford groceries. Screenshots of her $3,500 Cabo hotel booking. Voice notes. You owe me this shower after everything I've put up with from this family. An Excel spreadsheet with every single dollar I spent, down to the last custom-engraved napkin. Photos from her baby moon champagne cruise while sobbing on Facebook about struggling as a single mom. The room went dead silent. Rachel screamed, lunging toward the TV. Mike stepped between us, holding up his phone. There's more, he said. He opened a folder. Screenshots of Rachel flirting with 3 different guys while supposedly being faithful to him. DMs, selfies, timestamps. Someone gasped. Rachel's face crumpled, and for the first time all night, she was speechless. But I wasn't done. I pulled out the envelope I had left on the dessert table weeks ago, now updated, and tossed it onto the coffee table. Here's the best part, I said. Rachel never paid for her own baby shower. She didn't even plan it. I did. And guess who used some of that money to buy herself a new iPhone and designer bags right after? The receipts fell out onto the table, printed return emails, delivery confirmations, credit card screenshots from the funds I wired her when she claimed it was for baby essentials. Everyone saw it. Everyone. My aunt sat back heavily in her chair, pale as a ghost. My mom looked like she wanted to vanish. Rachel finally shrieked. He's lying. He's obsessed with me. Mike shook his head slowly. You're just mad you can't lie fast enough anymore. And then a cherry on top, I pulled out the car keys. The ones for the SUV I'd secretly bought her as a gift before all this madness. I dangled them by one finger. I was going to give you this, I said. Title in your name. 6 months of insurance paid up front. Her eyes widened. I smiled. Canceled. Then, still holding the keys, I opened the front door, walked outside, and threw them into the sewer drain. Clink. Gone. Rachel screamed again, a raw, ugly sound. Inside the house, people were already standing up, gathering their coats, whispering. The family was splitting right down the middle, half looking at me with wide, guilty eyes. The other half, Rachel's little loyalists, fumbling to defend the indefensible. My uncle muttered, Jesus Christ, under his breath and stormed out. Mike followed. I turned back one last time. Next time you want to scam someone, I said, pick somebody who doesn't keep receipts. And then I walked away. I didn't run. I didn't look back. I left them standing in the wreckage of their own lies. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the villain. I felt free. After the night everything exploded, I realized something simple. Shouting the truth only matters when the liars still have a voice. Rachel didn't deserve another argument. My family didn't deserve another explanation. They deserved something colder, sharper, final. The next morning, while the dust still hung over the ruins of the family dinner, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to a lawyer. The second was to a private investigator. The third was to a real estate agent. Because if they wanted to play with fire, I was ready to cut ties completely. Step 1. Cut the financial lifeline. I started pulling every single thread I'd ever tied to them. Rachel's baby registry that I'd half-funded? Canceled. The credit card I let my mother use for emergencies? Shut down. The utilities account for the family vacation house they sometimes squatted in? I reported unauthorized access. Frozen. That savings account where I used to secretly deposit emergency money for my mom? Emptied. Transferred. Closed. Within 48 hours, they lost access to thousands of dollars they had been quietly bleeding from me for years. No warning. No farewell speech. Just silent locks clicking into place. Step 2. Legal consequences. Remember those payments Rachel begged for? Those transfers she claimed were baby gifts? Yeah, I had everything documented. Turns out, under the law, when someone solicits money under false pretenses, like pretending it's for a baby fund while spending it on luxury trips, that's called fraud. My lawyer drafted a polite but deadly letter, demanding repayment, outlining the evidence, notifying them that if payment wasn't made within 30 days, we would pursue civil action for fraud and emotional damages. It wasn't a bluff. I had screenshots, audio, timestamps, receipts, and iron wall. Rachel's choice was simple. Pay, or face a lawsuit that would expose every dirty secret she thought she buried. Step 3. Social exile. While I wasn't interested in public shaming, I made sure that the family members who mattered, the ones with real influence, saw the truth quietly. Old-fashioned methods. Direct emails, private conversations, quiet, undeniable evidence. No drama, no hashtags, just facts. By the end of the week, Rachel found herself frozen out of 3 different baby support groups she used to run. No one wanted the association. No one wanted the liability. She didn't lose her reputation in a blaze. She lost it drip by drip, like a slow leak that eventually drowns you. Step 4. A new life, no parasites allowed. I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was building something they couldn't poison. I bought a new apartment cash. I registered a trust fund, but with strict clauses excluding any biological relatives from touching it. I opened a second business account under a legal shield corporation. No family member could ever find it, let alone exploit it. I stopped being the person they could guilt, call, lean on. I became someone untouchable, someone free. And then came the final blow. I sold the vacation house I had once helped my parents keep afloat, without telling them, for market value, to a real estate developer who planned to tear it down and build condos. The same house Rachel and my mother used to brag about like it was their birthright? Gone. No more free summers. No more cozy memories to weaponize. Just a pile of rubble and construction dust. When the sale finalized, I sent one text, short, sharp, and final. You wanted freedom from me? Congratulations. You now have it completely. No reply. None needed. By the time the 30-day deadline passed, Rachel sent a single email, a desperate, whining apology mixed with begging not to sue. She offered to pay back half. My lawyer advised, accept it. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about winning on my terms. I agreed, under one condition. Rachel had to sign a confession letter acknowledging her actions and waiving any future claims against me or my businesses. She signed, humiliated, broken, exactly where her own lies had led her. In the end, I didn't need to shout. I didn't need a stage. I didn't need applause. I just needed to remember that true revenge isn't public. It's private. It's quiet. It's permanent. The best closure isn't seeing them cry. It's seeing them completely unable to touch you ever again. There was no explosion, no screaming matches, no Facebook essays. There was only silence. Cold, heavy, final. And in that silence, I rebuilt my life. Without them, it's been 6 months since the night I shut the door on Rachel, my mother, and everything they thought they owned in me. In that time, my world didn't collapse. It expanded. I bought my second property not out of necessity, but because I could. I moved into a building with a doorman and private elevators, where gossip couldn't reach me. I switched industries entirely, opened a private consulting firm specializing in family wealth recovery and protection. Turns out, there's a massive, desperate market of people like me. Good kids raised by greedy families who one day snapped out of the trance. I work with inheritance fights. I help people legally freeze abusive relatives out of estates. I design airtight financial barriers, walls nobody can climb. I turn my survival into an empire. Meanwhile, Rachel? Still circling the drain. She lost her second apartment after her mother couldn't keep up with rent. She started bartending at some half-dead pub 2 towns over. Her social media is a graveyard. A few pity posts, a few quotes about rising stronger, but no real comeback. She tried to stage another GoFundMe last month, this time for medical bills. It got flagged and shut down within 2 days. Nobody believes her anymore. Nobody pities her. Because once a parasite's mask slips, it never fits again. As for my mother, she still tries. Soft little texts on holidays. Passive-aggressive comments about family ties. The occasional guilt-laced voicemail about missing the old days. I never reply. Not out of anger. Out of indifference. There's nothing left to argue about. The debt is paid. The bridge is burned. The ashes are scattered. And honestly, it feels good. Better than any apology ever could. One night in January, I got a phone call from an unknown number. I let it ring out of habit, but something told me to check the voicemail. It was my aunt, Rachel's mother. Her voice sounded tired. Beaten. She said, "You were right. About all of it. We thought you'd never leave." She paused, breathed heavily into the receiver. "We thought you'd keep forgiving forever." I deleted the message without saving it. Not out of cruelty. Out of self-respect. Because even now, months later, they still didn't understand. Forgiveness isn't infinite. Loyalty isn't slavery. And love without respect is just another form of abuse. Because here's the thing. They didn't just want my money. They wanted my silence. They wanted my loyalty. They wanted my life. And they were right about one thing. For a long time, I would have given it all to them, no questions asked. Because they had convinced me that love means loyalty. Even when loyalty is a loaded gun pointed at your own chest. But not anymore. Loyalty without respect is slavery. Forgiveness without change is permission. Family without integrity is just a cage with better wallpaper. I didn't lose a family. I woke up from a nightmare. Since then, I built a new circle around me. Friends who don't keep score. Partners who don't guilt me into serving them. Mentors who don't manipulate, but inspire. Real relationships. Built not on blood, but on respect, choice, and truth. Sometimes, I catch myself thinking about Rachel's baby shower. The day everything cracked open. I used to see it as a betrayal. Now, I see it as a liberation. $6,800 bought me the clearest view of my life I've ever had. Cheap price for total freedom. Last month, I passed Rachel at a gas station. She didn't see me. Her car was falling apart. She was arguing loudly with someone on her phone. She looked exhausted, not just physically, but spiritually, like someone carrying the weight of too many lies. For a second, I thought about how much I used to want her approval, her acceptance. Then I smiled quietly to myself, started my car, and drove away. No anger, no sadness, just a clean, pure absence. The kind of absence you only earn when you finally stop begging people to love you the right way. Closure isn't a big speech. It's not slamming the door and storming off. Closure is the sound of your own footsteps moving forward, without looking over your shoulder once. Closure is when they finally realize they can't reach you. They can't touch you. They can't even find you anymore. 6 months ago, I paid $6,800 for a baby shower. I thought it was a gift. Turns out, it was the last thing I ever owed them. And looking back now, it was the cheapest freedom I ever bought. And the most priceless lesson. Never bleed yourself dry for people who would leave you to die without a second thought.